Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm not sure who brought Barack Obama's teleprompter, but I wish I could move it so I can see you guys. But anyway, I am really honored to be here. I want to thank Tom for that introduction. I want to thank Adam Hasner, our other chair, and so many people that are helping us across the state. And I want to thank the chairman of the Republican Party, Blaise Ngolia. He is doing a great job, and I just signed the paperwork to be on the ballot. I'm the first person to sign the paperwork to be on the ballot for president. But it had to be notarized, so they asked me to bring my ID. I kid you not, I did. So I said, Google it. You'll see, it's me. But anyway, all by the book. So we're grateful, and we're honored to be with you guys today. Look, I think over the next few hours, perhaps day and a half, you're going to hear from some excellent people that are choosing the presidency. And I think we as a party are blessed to have so many good candidates. The Democrats can't even come up with one. I can tell you this, you know why our field is so strong? There's some big differences between the Republicans and the Democrats running for president. For example, we don't have any socialists running in the Republican Party for president. And none of our candidates are under investigation by the FBI for either. This is an important election. They all are important. This election is a generational choice about what direction our country will take. For over 2 centuries, each generation of Americans has chosen to do what it takes to make America a special country. And as a result, every single one of us are the beneficiaries of the extraordinary miracle of the American dream. Now the time has come for this generation to make its choice. And it's an important choice, for we cannot afford another 4 years like the last 8. The last 8 years, the last 7.5 years under Barack Obama have been a disaster. And not just a political disaster, a disaster for real people in the real world. Now, if you are a very wealthy individual, congratulations. If you're a multinational corporation, we wish you much success. They may not like all the Obama policies, but at the end of the day, they can afford to hire the best lobbyists in Washington, the best lawyers around, to deal with all of this stuff. The price of the Obama years is being paid by hardworking men and women, working families all across this country, who today are struggling to make it paycheck to paycheck, because our economy simply doesn't grow, and the jobs that it creates under this president do not pay enough. The people paying the price are young Americans, some straddling thousands of dollars in student loans that they borrowed for a degree that doesn't lead to a job. The price is being paid by people who own a small business, the very backbone of our economy. And yet today, for the first time in 35 years, we have more businesses failing than starting. And the price is being paid by America's prestige in the world. Each day brings news about another humiliation at the hands of Russia, at the hands of China, at the hands of radical jihadists, at the hands of Iran. The last 7 years have been a disaster, and the price is being paid by our people. And we reach this moment now where we must decide what we are going to be as a country for the next 50 to 100 years. A generational choice for our nation. And as we prepare to make that choice, I think we can take lessons from our history. For it is the principles of our founding that have made our nation special up to this point. And they also happen to be the principles that our party should always be about, whether it's at the local level, the statewide level, or the presidency or the Congress. What is it that made America special? 3 core principles that sadly some in both political parties have completely abandoned. The first is limited government. We know that every answer to our problems does not have a government solution. And the federal government is not the answer to every issue before this country. In fact, the federal government was defined and created to be a very specifically defined and limited government. It was not supposed to be involved in every aspect of our lives. We were never supposed to have the federal government involved in K-12 education. That's why we don't need Common Core. The one thing our federal government must do, and only our federal government can do, is provide for the common defense. the national security of the United States. But today, under this president, we are failing in that regard. $1 trillion in defense cuts await us. And what does that mean in practical terms? The smallest and the oldest Navy and Air Force ever. 40,000 positions slashed over the next 2 years from the Army. In a time when the world is more dangerous than it's been in my lifetime. A lunatic in North Korea has dozens of nuclear weapons. The Chinese are building up their military faster than any nation ever has, as they take over the South China Sea and hack into our computers and practice blowing up our satellites. A gangster in Moscow is sowing instability in Europe and now in the Middle East. A radical Shia cleric, which is what the Ayatollah in Iran is, a radical Shia cleric, is about to receive $150 billion of sanctions relief thanks to Barack Obama. And he will use it not to build hospitals and bridges and roads. He will use it to sponsor terrorism, to kill Jews, to kill Christians, to kill Americans. He will use it to build a long-range missile of his own. And he will one day use it to buy or build a nuclear warhead. And as if all these challenges were not enough, we now have multiple radical jihadist groups across dozens of countries and multiple continents. And in the face of all these threats, we are gutting our military capability. And that is why one of the first things this party must always be about is we must be the party of a strong national defense. History proves that the world is a safer, a better, and a freer place when America is the strongest military power in the world. By the way, providing for our national defense means keeping our commitment to our men and women who have served us in uniform. And if you are a veteran and you are here today, we are thankful for your service. We make them two promises. The first is, if we ever put you into hostilities, we are never going to put you in a fair fight. You're going to have better equipment, better training, and better information than any potential adversary. That is a promise we will not be able to keep if we continue the Obama policies on national defense. And the other promise we make them is when you come home after taking care of us, we are going to take care of you. Well, we're not keeping that promise either. Today, the Veterans Administration fails far too many veterans. And there are good people that work at the Veterans Administration. They're veterans themselves. They care about our veterans. And then there are people that simply are not performing a good job. And that's why I'm proud that last year, along with another member of Congress from Florida, Jeff Miller, we were able to pass a law that says if you are a senior executive at the Veterans Administration and you're not doing a good job, the Secretary will have the power to fire you. And that law passed. That's the good news. The bad news is they fired one person, and it's on appeal. The bad news is they awarded over $300,000 in bonuses to some of the people that should have been fired. So we need a VA that is accountable. And we also need a VA in which the benefits follow the veteran, not the veteran follow the benefits. Which means if you are a veteran and the local VA can't see you, but another hospital down the street can, you will be able to take your benefits to any doctor or any hospital that's ready to see you and treat you. A strong national defense also means a foreign policy of moral clarity, one in which our allies can trust us and our adversaries dare not test us. I only bring this up because we have the direct opposite. Our adversaries do not respect us. The best example of that is what's happening in the Middle East. There is only one pro-American free enterprise democracy in the entire Middle East, the State of Israel. Well, today we have a president who treats the Prime Minister of Israel with less respect than what he gives the Ayatollah in Iran. And that's why, if I am fortunate and blessed to be elected President of the United States, on my first day in office, I will cancel the deal with Iran that this President has signed. The second core principle that our party must always be about is free enterprise. The free enterprise system is what creates economic opportunity. Be very aware and afraid of any politician that says to you, when I was mayor, when I was senator, when I was governor, I created 1 million jobs. Well, unless you grew government by 1 million jobs, you did not create 1 million jobs. You know who creates 1 million jobs? The people who quit their jobs, max out their credit card to open up a small business out of the spare bedroom of their home. The private sector creates jobs, and the job of those of us in public office is to ensure that America remains the best place in the world to start a new business or to grow an existing one. That is the job of those of us in public service. And that is why we're for tax reform. You can't grow your economy and be globally competitive with the most expensive tax code in the world for job creation. You can't grow your economy with regulations, $1 billion a week sometimes that they're adding onto the code, that are strangling creativity. You can't grow your economy if you have a debt crisis, and we will have a debt crisis, $19 trillion and growing. You can't grow your economy if you don't fully utilize your energy resources. God has blessed America with oil and natural gas. Let us use it fully. And you can't grow our economy with a health care law that raises prices, lowers quality, and encourages employers not to hire people. And that is why we must repeal and replace Obamacare. There's one more point that we should always be about. For free enterprise and limited government are core principles of America's founding. They're the key to our prosperity and our liberty. But there's one more thing we can never forget. You cannot have a strong nation without strong people. And you cannot have strong people without strong values. The thing is, no one is born with strong values. Your values are taught to you, and then they are reinforced in you. And government cannot replace that. Government can tell you what's legal. It cannot always tell you what's right. Right and wrong, good and bad, that is learned from your values instilled in you in the family, the most important institution in society. And far too many of our leaders, quite frankly, in some instances in both parties, have forgotten that. There is no replacement for the family. It is the original government. It is the most important school you will ever attend. It is in the family and the community that supports the family, where the values that lead to strong people are instilled and reinforced. And while government cannot make anyone a better parent, government cannot make you a better husband or a better wife. Believe me, if it could, my wife would run for office. Government shouldn't be doing anything that undermines the family. And government shouldn't be doing anything that undermines our values. And it does. And it does. We have anti-poverty programs that do not cure poverty but discourage work. We have anti-poverty programs that discourage marriage. We have a tax code that discourages marriage. And we have a government that increasingly is targeting the faith community in this country and undermining the values that they teach our children and our families. The result is a growing number of Americans who hold traditional values feel like outsiders in their own country. If you believe in basic principles like marriage should be defined as the union of one man and one woman, if you believe that all human life is worthy of protection, you're labeled a bigot or a hater. One of the things I believe passionately is if I'm President of the United States, I will not appoint judges that do not understand it. I will not have judges appointed that do not understand the limits the Constitution places on the federal government, and I will have a Justice Department that defends the religious rights and liberties of every single American. Because religious liberty is not the right to believe whatever you want. It is that, but it is more. It is not just the right to believe whatever you want. It is the right to exercise it in every aspect of your life, at work and at home. Key among our fundamental rights is also the right to self-defense. It's one of the reasons why we have a Second Amendment. It's one of the reasons why gun laws fail everywhere they're tried. Because law-abiding people, they follow the law, but criminals do not. We must always be the party that protects and defends the Second Amendment, because our people have a right to defend themselves, their property, and their family. The key to our success as a party and as a nation lie in re-embracing these three principles: limited government, free enterprise, and strong families with strong values. There is no other way forward. And if we are not for those things, no one will be for those things. The key to our success does not lie in becoming more like the Democrats. The nation already has a Democrat Party. We don't need two Democrat parties. The key lies in convincing our nation, and I believe we can, that the only way forward for America is to re-embrace the principles that made this the greatest nation ever, and to apply those values and those principles to the unique challenges of a rapidly changing world. The world is a different place than it was 5 years ago, not to mention 20. Our principles still work, but the world is different. The economy is now a global one. We must compete against dozens of other countries. The pace of change is faster than ever. As I said the other night at the debate, it took the telephone 75 years to reach 100 million people. It took Candy Crush 1 year to reach 100 million people. The world is changing, and it has disrupted people's lives. These economic changes are like the Industrial Revolution, except they're happening every 5 years, not every 100. And it's wiped out jobs that once sustained our middle class. It's wiped out industries that once sustained us. And the truth is, some of these industries and some of these jobs may never exist again. But in the 21st century, new jobs can be created that actually pay more than the ones we've lost. New industries can be created that are better than the ones we've lost. The question is, where will they be created? In America or in some other place? And that is the challenge before us. The challenge is to convince people that the principles we stand for are the only way to recapture the greatness of this nation and expand it to places even further than it's ever gone before. And the stakes could not be higher. For we are running out of time. We still have time, but we are running out of time. The bad news is that today we are on the road to decline. I know that this is a Republican gathering, and so perhaps saying something about your own party that's less than kind is not always the right thing to do, but it's the truth. Both parties are to blame for this road that we're on. You don't? I always chuckle when people say there's no bipartisanship in Washington. There is. That $19 trillion debt is a bipartisan debt. But we've never seen anything like the last 7 years in this president. We are on the road to decline, and what that means is if we don't change, if we don't turn the page, if we don't allow new people with new ideas to lead this country into this new era, I believe that our children, sadly, will be the first Americans in history who will inherit a life worse than their parents. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to be this way. There is another way forward for us. There is another way forward for us, but we must embrace it. And that's why I chose to run for president. Because I honestly believe that if we do what needs to be done, the greatest era in our history is right before us. But the time to act is now. We really can't wait any longer. We cannot wait any longer. You know, I said this last night to a group, it's easy to think that America's always had it easy, that we've never faced challenges. That's just not true. We've always faced challenges. We were founded by declaring independence from the most powerful empire in the world. It's quite a challenge. We had a civil war that divided our nation brutally, almost ended it. That was a challenge. The First World War created carnage mankind had never seen. Then, right after the First World War, a Great Depression. And then a Second World War. And then after that, a long Cold War that threatened the existence of life on this planet. We have always faced great challenges. Ours is the story of a people that have always confronted their challenges and embraced their opportunities. Now the time has come for this generation to do its part. And we are all called to this task, for we are all the beneficiaries of the extraordinary miracle of America. But I feel personally called to this passionately, Because America is not just a country that I grew up in, it's the nation that literally changed the very history of my family. I don't come from wealthy and politically connected parents. I was born and raised by people that know America is special because they know what life is like outside of America. And they never became rich or famous in America either. But they were successful because through hard work they were able to own a home in a safe and stable neighborhood and retire with dignity and leave all 4 of their children better off than themselves. But that's not just my story, that's our story. It's especially the story of Florida, a state where people have come from all over the place in search of a better life. Some came here fleeing socialism in Venezuela. Some fleeing socialism in New York. They came here in search of, yeah, I know, now I lost the New York primary. But listen, maybe not. We never know. They might move to Florida. If any state in this nation understands the American dream, it's Florida. People that understand the American dream is not how much money you make. It could be a part of your dream, but it's not the American dream. The American dream is not how many things you own on the day you die. The American dream is about being able to leave your children better off than yourself and achieving the life you want through hard work and perseverance. This is what makes us special. Every country in the world has rich people. The poorest country in the world has rich people. What makes us special is the millions of people that will never be rich, but are working hard to be happy. And whether or not they can achieve that in the 21st century, that is what will determine whether we are a special country or not. The men and women who will clean the rooms of this hotel tonight, the people who will serve your food at lunch or park your car, will they be able to leave their children better off than themselves? Will they be able to do for their children what my parents did for me and your parents did for you? That is what we must decide. That is what our party must be about. Because if we do what needs to be done, then that American dream will not just survive. It'll reach more people and it'll change more lives than ever before. And the 21st century won't just be as good as the 20th century. It will be better. It will be a new American century. And so, I will close by thanking you for the chance to address you today. I'm grateful to be back home. I will spend some time over the next few weeks in Iowa, nicest people in the world. Even the hecklers are polite. In New Hampshire, incredibly well-informed voters. In South Carolina, a state that's so vibrant. A state that in many ways embodies the promise of the new economy. Go Gators. Let's keep that on the down low until, well, probably too late for me. Anyway, and then Nevada, a state that I actually lived in for 6 or 7 years growing up, a place where I learned a lot about the American dream, watching my parents work hard. Then through the SEC primary, which, depending on how the Gators do at the SEC championship, I may not win. And then Florida, this extraordinary place, unlike any in the country, I think, because it brings so many people from so many places who passionately believe in the American dream because they've lived it. They too came from someone who did not come from privilege or political connection. They too had to come and restart their lives, and America gave them a chance to do what they never would have been able to do in another state or in another country. And hopefully, God willing, if it is God's will and yours, I hope that I am blessed with the privilege and the honor of trying to repay a little bit of the debt I have to this country. America owes me nothing. But hopefully, I will be blessed with the opportunity to serve this nation in its highest office, because if we can do what needs to be done, you and I will go down in history as the authors of the single greatest era in the history of this great nation. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thanks for having me.